Hi, my name is Jonathan Colman from the band Muscle Tough. I'm here at Spice House Sound, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about my rig. In my band Muscle Tough, we do something pretty unique called the switch. What might appear to be a normal bass guitar and regular guitar, through the help of a lot of pedals and 2 amps each, will totally switch on you. So what a normal bass sound, Ross might take that on. And then I get to play guitar and take solos and do all those fun things. All right, so for people like my mom or some of my friends who might be bored and confused by all this, I'll give you the quick version. Serek bass guitar, into the big board, into the small board, split into my 2 amps. Thank you so much. Let me talk to you about my bass guitar here. I have a Serek Midwestern 5-string. It is a short scale bass guitar, which is unique to have a 5th string on. It's a 30.5 scale, so it's a little shorty, kind of like a Les Paul. Pickup-wise, I have Nordstrand Zen blades, which are very quiet, humbucking, and emulating a P and a J sound. So here's the split. Nice and balanced. But let's say I'm doing some kind of old-fashioned-y thing. We might want something a little more P-bassy. And then for something a little bit more jazzy and Jaconian and bright, we've got the neck pickup. On the bass amp front, I'm happy to be rocking with Aguilar. I've got this delicious Poseidon Green 4x10 with a cute little horn inside, and I'm powering it all with the Tonehammer 500, which I've been steadily beating the crap out of for about a decade. And I am looking forward to upgrading to the AG700, which is another fantastic sounding Aguilar amplifier. For my high-pitched stuff, I'm coming out of this fabulous Fender Princeton Tone Master amp. If you haven't heard of these, it's a DSP emulation, so there's no tubes inside, it weighs virtually nothing, and it has a DI, so sound guys have been delayed that we have no mics on stage. Also, there's an adorable little foot switch that gives me access to reverb and vibrato. I'm cleanly sending my signal through all of these pedals into these amps with my trusty Raydecker cables. These Mugami Tech Flex wrapped wonderfully wood-tipped artisanal creations are as great sounding as they are looking. Let's talk about my big board. I have a lot of pedals here, and it is more than any bass player in the world needs. There's a bunch of redundancies, but for me, it's like having a bunch of different types of markers and charcoals and felt tips and colored pencils, just different things I can paint with all the colors of the wind with. First up, we'll talk about pitch stuff. Maybe most important in my pitch world is my Digitech Whammy, which I use to go from this normal bass register to this guitar-y register. Then for my more traditional octave sounds, I use the 3-leaf audio octave, which is Tim LaFay's octave pedal, and it really kind of solved something a lot of us bass players obsessed with the OC2 sound we're dealing with. It helped us stop leaning over and dialing out our dry signal. So here's my normal sound. And then I can just step on this sub button and get that delightfully hollow, square wavy, 808 sounding octave sound that a lot of us improvising bassists love. And I've got the old school one, but they do make them in a fine, smaller chassis these days. Have a look. These two pitch pedals can play really nicely together, kind of getting a sort of pitch wheel effect like you're playing a Moog or something. Let's get dirty. I want to talk to you about my gain stage. I have 2 fuzz pedals and an overdrive, and I have them stacked fuzz, fuzz, overdrive. Now, I know there's a lot of debate. I'm not even necessarily getting into the order of my pedals here, just doing some categories for you. But my first fuzz here is the Behringer Super Fuzz. Probably like a $25 pedal, but wow, is it hot. All of these pedals you see before you, I set to behave well, whether I'm in my normal bass register or in the more high-pitched realm. So here's that same fuzz with a little bit of a lead sound. Next up on the fuzz block, I have the Mesh Audio Valhalla Fuzz, as I have called it over the years. And this is the distortion unit or fuzz unit from the Ampeg 360, Germanium fuzz, and it's the best. Everyone loves it. It plays well with all the other pedals. Check it out. It's a little bit less doomy, a little bit more bright, clarion, and cutting. And just like before, sounds great with the guitar stuff. And lastly, and probably the most important out of this whole thing, is my overdrive. I have an Abominable Effects Oppressive Cult Destroyer, which is a OCD clone. And I definitely got it because their YouTube videos rule, and it has this little skull guy with light up LED eyes responding to your signal. So I was definitely sold on the art, and it became this kind of cornerstone of my tone. It's just subtle enough, it's got a clean blend, and it really seals the deal for the high-pitched leads. Time for some modulations. For my envelope filter, I'm using another Mesh Audio pedal. This is the Jonathan Colman envelope filter. And Christian and I arrived at this after many wonderful conversations. One of the cool functionalities is, here's your normal wah sound. And with a touch of a foot switch, I can change the direction to the ow sound, another popular psychedelic funky sound. And like everything that's come before it, they all sound really great with the guitar sound. Particularly the owl sound. For a chorus, I use a Roadkill chorus pedal. It's another $20 pedal, which sounds amazing on bass. I have a Earthquaker Grand Orbiter I use for phase shifting. Clearly, I really like that one. And I've just been getting into flanging. I'm a flanger now, and I have this awesome Ibanez flanger, the yellow one, probably a 90s or 80s piece. And it's a real great thickening and widening agent. All right, let's get synthy. I've got a variety of synthesizer effects, and I'm just going to take you through them. I love the Source Audio C4 bass synth, which I use to get a lot of different sounds. I don't use MIDI. I have a little bit of an old school approach to it, and I'm just going to take you through them. This one I call a boogie on sound. I have this growling sound, which you may recognize from the Muscle Tough song, Universe Pocket. A growl, like a lot of this envelope-y stuff, is all controlled by how hard I'm digging with my right hand. So there's a subtlety. And then if I really dig in, and then there's a whole other bank of sounds on the other side. I call this one Uncut Gems because I designed it after seeing Uncut Gems and 1-0 Tricks Point Never's amazing score. Kind of emulating a Juno lead. Then I've got this cool dark dubby swell. Auto swell. And then I have this cool tight staccato funk sound. Another cool synthy thing I use is a bit crusher. I use the Meris Auto Bit Junior, and I use a MIDI switcher to access a variety of presets. It's this disaster area DMC micro. And so I have 3 stages of bit crushing, which I will call intro crush, which is a little gentle. And then I have mid crush, which gets a little toothier, a little nastier. And then I have full crush, which is like real insane sounding. And then things get even weirder. I have a diminished sequence program. There's a random stutter, which can be pretty fun and bizarre. And then lastly, one of my favorite sounds is the whole tone sound. Here's a whole tone pattern for all the whole tone lovers out there. It is polyphonous. Another synth I have is the Boss SYB5, which I use in conjunction with a expression pedal to get this kind of cool sculptable square wave sound. And this has been a hallmark of mine for well over 10 years. I was one of those people that enjoyed dubstep, pre-cringy bro culture stuff, and really tried to emulate a lot of those bass sounds using effects pedals. And this was when I really still get a lot of use out of. And then so everything I've talked about so far then hits this dusk low pass filter, which is such a beautiful effect I'm really getting the hang of. So I just kicked it on. That's in league with the synth there, but even going back to my bit crushing days, you get a lot of control over how insane things get. These kind of filter scoops, you can use it like a wah. It's been one of my real clutch go-to things. A lot of different sounds I get are inspired by drum and bass artists like Photek and Aphex Twin and Skrillex and just really wild bass music that I try to make happen in the improvisational electric bass world. Let's get into some wet stuff. Delays, reverbs. Yeah, I said it. I like to drench my signal in itself using these wild and wacky reverberating effects. On the big board here, I've got an Eventide Ultra Tap, which I have a variety of sounds programmed. My friend Jeremy Sean put me onto these wonderful SaturnWorks tap switches, which are basically tap tempo or really whatever you want an aux switch to be. And I'm using that to control my presets so that the tap switch on the pedal is available. So if I'm doing something like there's the classic long delay there. Then something I get a lot of use out of is this dotted eighth. Excellent for the leads, so I'm going to stay in the lead world here. And I have this kind of shimmer delay. Probably my favorite sound on it is this orchestrate sound. Where I could play really slow arpeggios and it turns me into John Williams. And lastly, I have the kind of signature ultra tap sound. So the last thing I have on the big board is the Electro Harmonix Ocean 11 reverb, and I got it to do reverse reverb sounds, but fell in love with its shimmer, which I use all the time. It's just this really cool, spectral, ghastly presence following me around, so it really turns the trio stuff into something sounding a little more quartet-y, like there's a keyboard player doing some subtle textures underneath. That's nice. And now for the small board. This is kind of my loop station, and there's a lot of cool things going on here that I do use for bass playing and leads and loop setting and texture. So I think the important things to mention first off the bat, I have this radial ABY switch, which I use to go from the bass amp, which is the green light, to the guitar amp, which is the red light. This thing actually, it sounds great with a bass through it. But so I select, I don't ever run them at the same time. It's just when I'm doing leads or if I want to send a loop to one or the other, that's how I do it. Pretty much everything on both of these is going into the ABY, and then the first signal is hitting the Boomerang looper and it's going to the Aguilar. But then also out of the ABY, I have another signal just hitting this compressor at the very end of the chain, another $20 Amazon purchase that hits the Boomerang, and then it goes over to the Fender. And so that's what I'm up to with my signal splitting. Now, some of the other goodies on here are things that I've had in the past and talked about. The freeze is a powerful tool for doing textures and accompanying yourself. So if I hit a chord, it'll hold it arbitrarily, whatever you'd like to do. It's really fun to trap a glissando in. Some other toys I have on here is the Count to 5, which a lot of people warned me was hard to be musical with, and maybe they were right, but I'm having a lot of fun using it. I describe it as the Time Lord mode, and I use an expression to control whether the time is moving forwards or backwards or both. And there's some sweet spots in the middle. So that's really fun. I have the Boss Slicer, which is their new thing, and I got another Saturn Works tap tempo. Still kind of finding my way with that one. It's great when you're just playing by yourself, but when you're with the band, I'm really riding the tap to keep the groove going and just starting to learn to not look at my foot doing it and trust things. Another hallmark crazy sound that Ross in Muscle Tough and I have been using for years is the Earthquaker Arpanoid. God bless Earthquaker. They have a lifetime repair warranty. This is the first generation, and they've repaired mine like 4 times at this point. I have mine set to random minor arpeggios, and it's great for just creating a crazy moment or taking a break during a solo. Now I know you're thinking, oh man, wouldn't it be great to have a delay after all that stuff? Well, you're right. And I have the Chase Bliss Total Recall. I have it set to the bouncing eighths. It's got a tap, and I've got a really nice warble added to it. Kind of going back through so you can hear the delay on this stuff. So pretty much everything on the boards plays nicely with each other, and there is a bajillion combinations to be had. I'm not going to go through them all, but I will talk to you a little bit about how I use the looper and create a little environment and, demo some of the stuff here that we've been talking about today. You may notice I have a sign here that says reverse it first. In Muscle Tough, we're not setting up loops to play to. They're more textural things. So I never want to send something into the mix that is going to be rhythmically distracting. So one thing that can be helpful is I'll come up with a rhythm that is not reversed. So I'm going to just play something. I don't know. I hit this reverse things first. And it removes the rhythmic quotient of it. Normally I will be setting a fake drum beat like that. So you can kind of just layer them many upon many. I'll give you a quick example. And I have this wonderful foot switch to control the volume with, completely cutting things off, fading them back in. There's also a fade switch on it too, for a more elegant auto fade kind of sound. And let's just do a little jam here at the end. I'll make some sounds for you all. I normally start off with a really short drum beat, so something like something that can be trusted. And then I'll add a bass line. Got it. Then we'll take that reverse loop thing into heart. Thanks for hanging out, checking out my rig. If you have any questions, I'm an open book. I pretty much have stolen all of this, being inspired by different players and different sounds over the years, and I'm happy to relay. And I want to just wish you all wonderful creative explorations and happy practicing.